Good afternoon and welcome to Valley Views. I'm your host, Glenn Edison. Certainly glad to have you today. And as always, we're thankful for BTC Fiber for sponsoring our program. And you can see these interviews on BTC Fiber's YouTube page as well as Cable Channel 18. And we'd like to also thank our sponsor for our program, and that's Needful Things General Store. Go by and see her, Kim, down there at Needful Things right on Highway 127. Just before you get to the Bethel Church of Christ, right there on the right as you're coming from Pikeville. You might find some things you need, you might find some things you don't need, but just want anyway. So go by and check her out. And today we have with us Lillie Cagle. She's a newly graduated senior at Bledsoe County High School, but that's not why we have her here. We have her here because she's the Tennessee State Sentinel for FFA. And Lillie, thank you for being with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And let's get into a little bit of how long have you been in FFA?
So I joined the National FFA organization my freshman year of high school. So I've been part of the organization for 4 years. This will be my 5th year as a member.
All right, and you're going to continue that as you go on to tech, right?
Yes, I will be a collegiate FFA member. So there's different types of membership in the FFA. You have active and collegiate and then alumni. So I'll be participating as a collegiate member. All
right. And, since we're talking about FFA, when I was in school, which is a long time ago, FFA was primarily just boys.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't any girls. But now, within the past few years, I've noticed a lot of the local groups have just as many or more girls than they do the boys.
Yeah, so women were actually allowed to be FFA in 1969, so it's really cool to see the transition that we've been able to make since then, when women weren't even thought of as members of the organization, and now on my state officer team, it's all 8 of us are girls. So it's really cool to have that differentiation there.
So all 8 of the state officers are all girls?
Yes. I know, our poor state advisor, he's all by himself, but we try and go easy on him.
Well, that's interesting. Now, there's a lot to becoming a state officer. Let's talk about that just a minute. How does that process work about being a state officer?
So whenever you go through the interview process, it's held at State Convention, which takes place in Gatlinburg every March. You go through 2 rounds of personal or individual interviews, where you have a personal one where they ask questions about you and about FFA, just general knowledge like that. And then you also have an agriculture issues interview where they ask questions strictly about agriculture issues. So for example, in my interview, I was asked about what I thought the largest issue facing the agriculture industry was. I was asked about the upcoming farm bill, just other topics like that, other pressing needs in the agriculture industry, to make sure your state officers are educated on what's going on in the agricultural industry around you. Because as state officers in Tennessee, you're not just working for the organization, you're working with political officials, government officials. So it's important that we're knowledgeable on what's happening. After those 2 interviews, you have to go through a group interview where you and other individuals that are running are put in a team scenario where you have to come up with a workshop or present to a board, something like that. Usually it's around 20 minutes to prepare and then 10 minutes to present.
Oh.
Then you also have to do a letter writing activity. It's either to a school official, a board member, a local politician, something along the lines of that. And then we have to design a POA, which stands for Program of Activities, for the upcoming year that I will, as a state officer, will follow.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yes.
It's not just a single interview.
Yes.
There's a lot to it. Well, that's pretty neat. Well then, excuse me. And I guess when you look at FFA and you being a state officer, the farming, even though around here might be different than, I know out in West Tennessee they have some large farms, and we have some large farms around here, but some of them are pretty big out there.
Yeah.
So you might have different problems, but you have a lot of the same problems as well. When you represent everybody, you have to represent the little guy and the big middle-sized guy and the big guy too.
Yeah, it's cool that you mentioned that, because as state officers in Tennessee, we have 3 vice presidents, so that we ensure we have someone from every region. So we have a Middle, West, and East state vice president. That way we can kind of make sure all the regions are represented. But something that's really cool about Tennessee that not a lot of other states can vouch for is that we're a very diverse state. So, in Middle Tennessee, it's a lot more city-ish. There's hills. West Tennessee is completely flat. And then East Tennessee has all of the mountains. So each sector has a very different agriculture industry, and they all have big ag producers that fit in several different places. So it's cool to talk to my fellow state officers that are from different regions than we are in East Tennessee and kind of understand more about how their agriculture industry works compared to ours, and communicating with other farmers to see what they do that works for them in another region but it might not work for us.
Right, and because I know like some of those larger farms where they have their own trucks and stuff that's, they're sending out stuff all the time through their own trucks, whereas here we might have to call somebody to come and get the stuff. We don't have all the trucks and stuff to send stuff out. So there's a big difference there. Well, that's neat, and I'm sure you have met many people over your years, high school students that have met. I'm sure you made many friends as well, and that's kind of neat because you get to meet people that you didn't know, and then you get to hear other ideas and opinions that you might not have thought about.
I think one of the best parts about it is I'm not just making friends from the state of Tennessee, but genuinely all over across the country. I mean, the FFA has 52 state associations in it. And so through going to leadership conferences like the Washington Leadership Conference, I made good friends from Puerto Rico, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, like a lot of these states that I may never get the chance to visit or go to, but it's so cool to have those connections with them and know that pretty much anywhere I am in the U.S., I have a friend that I can call and reach out to, you want to meet up for lunch or something like that, just because we met through the organization. I actually have a friend in Georgia who I met at a leadership conference, and she got elected as a state officer for Georgia 2 weeks after I got elected.
Oh, yeah.
So we were both able to message each other, and it was just super exciting to have that connection already and then watch each other succeed and encourage each other. So it's just really a great organization, especially if you're making those connections and friendships that really do last a lifetime.
Right, and then when you meet those people in other states, like some of the Midway states, they may work on a lot of corn and other products that maybe we don't necessarily work on over here. I mean, we have corn here in the valley, but not like a lot of those bigger farms out in the Midwest, and the areas are all different. They have different concerns.
Yeah, and then another thing too is here in Bledsoe County, we're extremely rural, and a lot of areas in Tennessee are like that. But when I meet people from other states where there's not hardly any rural land at all and it's all urbanized, just seeing the different ways that they're able to make up for that lack of agriculture there, where it may not be large farms with hundreds of acres like I'm more familiar with, but they have rooftop greenhouses, or they're doing stuff in the classroom where they're setting up small greenhouses or plant labs, compost, stuff like that. So it's cool to see that difference, how they're bringing agriculture to where they are compared to how I am, and how we can exchange ideas to kind of help grow the agriculture industry everywhere. Well,
I've noticed now that you mentioned the greenhouses and stuff, I've noticed that a lot in inner cities, maybe on rooftops, where they do have the greenhouses, or they have an area where they've got beds for the different products on top of the rooftops.
Yeah.
And that's kind of neat when you look at that. You think, well, that's odd, but for them it's not, because that's their way of, I guess, getting back to nature, I guess, in a sense. Well, let's talk about, I know you have won, I know, and you have a right to brag, you have won many awards. Let's talk about some of those awards and tell people what you have won.
So at state convention this past year, I was named the State Star in Agri-Science. The star is basically the highest honor that you can have. There's 5 stars. So there's a Agri-Science, placement, business, green hand, and then one more. I can't remember the last one, but there's one more. So I was named the Star in Agri-Science for the state of Tennessee, which is a very big honor. I was very excited about that. Basically, it's kind of I have the best Agri-Science SAE, which is Supervised Agriculture Experience, in the state of Tennessee. So there was a lot of competition to I had to compete at the regional and then state level.
Okay.
It was kind of crazy. I was competing against one of the other girls that got elected as a state officer.
Oh, really?
And me and her both are really good friends. So when we were up on stage, we were like, as long as one of us wins, like, we're happy, because I'll be happy for you, you be happy for me. So that's another, going back to the friendship part of it. Outside of that, I was also the state proficiency winner for agriculture education. I did that through the work of the Ag Across the Board organization I started in mobile classroom that I used building a trailer. So just, bringing agriculture education to individuals in our community and outside of it. So I was named that. And then also being elected as state sentinel. I was also the third place in the region for extemporaneous speaking, which is where you draw the topic that you're going to be giving your speech about when you arrive at the competition. So I had drew the topic, and then I had 20 minutes to prepare a speech, 10 minutes to research, and then went and gave a speech about it. So that one,
that's hard.
Yeah, it was. I'm definitely more of a prepared kind of speaker, but extemporaneous speaking is supposed to be one of the best ways that you can practice for state office, because you don't know what interview questions you're going to get asked till you walk in the room. So it was kind of cool to get to try something out new, and I found out that I wasn't as bad as it at it that I thought I was going to be. And I told my mom after districts, I was like, I'm going to try and lose at region because I do not want to do this on the state level, but I still got third place, so I was happy with that.
Well, that's neat. And let's talk about your ag in the classroom that you raised funds for.
Yes.
And because that was a neat project, I thought, and that was a major undertaking.
Yeah, so I decided, I guess it would have been a little over a year ago, that I wanted to start a mobile classroom in the community, because I already had the proficiency or SAE in agriculture education, but I noticed when I was going to classrooms or doing lessons that you don't have a lot of time and resources to really educate on diversely on agriculture. So a lot of times you have to pick one small thing and kind of information dump to students as much as you can and do a short activity and hope that you're leaving them with something. So I thought that it would be cool if we could have kind of like an ag class on the go, and then especially for the younger generation, because you have hands-on activities and they can go through and look at everything. So we decided to purchase a trailer, which I had to raise around $10,000 to be able to purchase this trailer. And so we are in the process of turning it into the classroom now, which we've already got some of it set up, and we've been able to go to a couple of events and kind of share like this with people and do activities. So it's really cool to see everybody get to engage with different aspects of the agriculture industry and really advance agricultural literacy in our community, and kind of beyond that. So
you could go to a lot of live events that we have here in the valley and open it up for people to see. And then something that's cool about it too is it's not just for younger kids, which I sat up at the fall festival this past fall, and I didn't have the trailer with me, but I did have 2 activities. And while we were there, I was talking to the students about, like this, we had a milk the cow one, so they could milk the cow, and I was talking to them about the dairy industry and like, where did you think your milk comes from? And they'd say like the grocery store or my refrigerator. Like, they didn't know that it came from a cow, and so that was cool, bridging that connection. But then I had adults who were there who were asking me questions, and they were like, oh, I've never milked a cow before, this is so cool. Or we had a sheep shearing, and I was telling them about wool is a natural fire resistant, and so firefighters, a lot of times their uniforms are made from wool. Then one of the little girls said, oh, so farmers save lives, don't they? I'm like, yeah, let's go with that one. So it's just cool seeing the connection between the parents and students and even older generations. Like, it's never too late to learn something new, especially when it's about an industry that feeds you and clothes you and provides for all of our needs. Well, and you mentioned adults. There's a lot of adults that may not have been around a farm or had any farming at all experience, and when they see this stuff, it's new to them as well. So it's something that can be really good for even adults.
Yes.
And I know you're trying to work. Now you're going to Tech. What is some of the things you're going to be studying there, or what's your area of interest?
So I'm studying agriculture communications at Tech. So I might pick up a minor in ag business. I'm not sure yet. I'm just going to play this year out since I have a lot of other stuff going on with state office. But I'll be able to hopefully complete internships with Farm Bureau or State Farm or other agriculture, businesses like that to work with their communications team. I've also looked into potentially being a lobbyist for Farm Bureau to talk about agriculture policies that are up and upcoming, such as the Farm Bill that I was speaking about earlier. You know, that's a big one this year. So I think it's just cool to get to talk to other people who are part of the agriculture industry and help advocate for it however I can. And I'm very excited to be able to do that throughout my college career also.
Well, that would be a good choice to get in and advocate for farmers, because a lot of times I found out that people don't read there's a lot of fine print in all these bills, and sometimes pages upon pages. And if you're not informed, you don't understand the whole bill and it might affect you in a negative way, it might affect you in a positive way, but you need to be informed, and that's good.
And then a lot of times farmers and agriculturists don't have the opportunities to share their beliefs on these, just if it's so high up in government or they don't really understand what's happening, like you said. So it's important to help bridge the gap between the government and the farmer, or the school and the farmer, or just making sure that people understand that this is coming from a person just like us, and making sure that we're all on the same page about what's happening in the agriculture industry, and just advocating for the rights of those that are providing for us.
Well, and one big thing for a lot of farmers is cost. I mean, not only do they have costs for their machinery and equipment, but then you get into their seed and things that they have to purchase to make a crop. And then when they can only sell it for so much, it affects them in a negative way. So there's a lot to, people don't realize, they may go to the store and buy a can of beans or corn or whatever, but they don't realize all behind
where it's coming from.
Yeah, but I'm afraid there's a lot of people today that are that way. They're not informed about where these products come from. They just think, like you said, the store.
Yeah.
And that's not good.
That's why youth organizations like FFA and 4-H are so important, to make sure that we're getting more agriculture producers into the world and more people that are educated at least about it.
Now you mentioned 4-H. Does FFA and 4-H work kind of close together?
In some ways, yes, but we're two separate organizations.
Right.
So a lot of times we might, we joke around and call people who are in FFA and 4-H double dippers. So occasionally you have a few of those, but I'm just a member of the FFA, but I do have friends that do both. So both of them are very important organizations.
Well, how big is the chapter here at the high school?
We probably have, so Tennessee FFA is actually an affiliated association, so that means that every single student that is in an agriculture class automatically their dues are paid and they become a member of the National FFA organization.
Oh, okay.
So every student in the Biloxi County High School that has taken an ag class is automatically a member in the organization. So even if they're not active, their name is still on our roster. So we probably have around 200 to 300 members put down on our roster, which is an insane amount. And a lot of times even larger schools don't have that many members just because they're in a more urbanized area. Right. But it's hard sometimes to reach out to all of those students, which is it's important for us to make sure we're also advocating for our ag teachers. But active members, I would probably say we have around 100, 150.
Really?
Yeah, so we have a lot of participation just from students in the community and area, and a lot of students who want to be involved. So
it's not just you and a handful of students working?
No, there's a lot of us.
Well, that's good, because a lot of times it's like 4 or 5,
Yeah.
And that's about it, and it's the same ones all the time. So well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. How, as I mentioned earlier, there's more girls now becoming involved, but how's that struggle been for girls to get involved? Have you had grief here? I mean,
it's definitely not from our community at all. I mean, Biloxi County has been nothing but supportive of me and the journey that I've wanted to go on. I maybe have had like a couple of individuals who haven't been the nicest, but the majority of the time people are very nice and supportive of me.
Now I know Tech, you were having to decide where you wanted to go to school, because I know there's MTSU, they have a big ag program, and Tech does as well. But was it really hard for you to decide?
Yes, it was very hard. I had a lot of scholarships come in just because of being in FFA and participating in the agriculture industry and stuff like that. So I had several universities reach out to me, and different people asked to come there. I had a full ride to both Tennessee Tech and UTK. So that was very hard for me to think about, just distance from my family, which school I was going to have the best opportunities with. But I'm very excited to attend Tech in the fall, and I think it's a good fit for me. It's, not too big, not too small, and then I really like Cagle. Yeah, I can get home quick, so I won't have to miss my little brother too much. But I think it's going to be a great fit. I'm really excited for it.
Well, good. That's good to hear. I know. I know UT has a large program as
Yes.
well, and I know that's probably tempting.
Yes, I was really excited for it. Plus, go Vols, love football, so that was also part of it. But I just felt like Tech felt more like home to me. So.
Well, that's good, because you need to make a choice that makes you happy.
Yes.
And that'll make you happy, and I'm sure it makes your mom and dad happy.
Yeah, they're excited.
And because I know they didn't want you too far away from home.
No,
either.
I don't think so.
Well, has there been things that we haven't covered that you might want to bring out that we haven't discussed that maybe we need to discuss, and maybe it's out of my area?
Not that I can really think about. I have a very busy schedule upcoming this year with being a state officer. On Sunday, I actually leave for forestry camp, so I'll be there through Friday. And then after that, I have 3 weeks of FFA camp back to back.
Wow.
So the whole month of June and a little bit of July, I'm pretty much out of commission. So I'll be up there getting to know a lot of the members. I'm really excited for FFA camp because it's kind of going to be my first time as a state officer to really get to interact with the members and develop those connections with them, which is my absolute favorite part of all of this, is making those friendships and connections and encouraging other people to get more involved in the organization. So I'm really excited about that. And then I'll also be going to Washington, D.C. in July with the summit, which is state officer leadership training. So I'll get to be with the state officers from all across the nation. So all of the 52 state associations come to summit, and I get to talk to all those other state officers. The national officers train us. So I also have, I have some training with the Tennessee State Association while I'm up there. So I'm really excited for all of that and just getting to know all of the members. I'm just excited for the year and all the opportunities that are going to come with it.
Just don't hang out with too many politicians.
Yeah. I'll try not to.
I'm just kidding. I know that's part of your job, because the politicians are the one that make the rules concerning this. And of course, a lot of politicians themselves have been farmers or have family that are farmers. They're not just making rules just to be making rules, because they hear from their constituents. But that's where you'll play a part as well, by being a voice for your farmers.
So National FFA is an apolitical organization, so we try not to have too many opinions, but our main goal is really just advocating for farmers and advocating for agriculture education. So
just doing what you're set out to do. Well, that's neat. And was there anything else we might have not covered?
Not that I can think of.
Well, I do appreciate you being with me today, and it's been a pleasure. And sounds like you got an exciting summer coming up, and we may not get to see you for a while. Right?
Maybe for a little bit.
We better catch a glimpse while we can.
Yeah.
Right? Well, that's good, and I'm glad. And thank you for all your accomplishments and what you do.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And again, folks, you can see our interview on BTC Fiber's YouTube page, as well as BTC Fiber's Cable Channel 18. And again, thank you to Needful Things General Store. Go by and see Kim Barkley down there, and she'll set you up if you need something. So until next time, have a great day. All right. I thought that went pretty good. Hey everybody, this is Glenn Edison from Valley Views. We appreciate you watching our shows, and we would like for you to like, share, and follow us on Facebook, as well as like and subscribe to our YouTube page.